viewers, everybody. This is the Ef'n Sunny Show. I don't know why I'm announcing it because my name's not even in the title. But my name is Victoria Muñiz. I'm the co-host with Efrain Molina. And this is Pablo Almaguer, except he may have changed his name to Paloma.
Oh, that's sorry about that. That's what
Hey,
happens
it's
when you have
cool.
to like.
The new Supreme Court case says you can't be discriminated against if
That's
you're going to
right.
do some type of transition. So
Amen.
we're
Now,
Amen.
allies here.
now,
I'm changing mine. There you go. Yeah.
Paloma, are you referring to the street gang?
No, man, that's my daughter, dude.
Ah, okay. Oh,
Yeah, no. Wow,
It
man.
must be
That's
tough.
I said that's what the last show started by making fun about my name. Now you're going after my daughter, man.
We got
Interesting.
you again.
Yeah, yeah, it comes back around. Yeah, that's what happens when you're homeschooling, man. You get all kinds of zooming going on.
So, so Pablo, you recently ran for the state bar
Yeah.
president, and you lost, right?
President-elect.
President-elect.
Select. Yeah,
And you lost, right?
that's correct. By 37 votes.
By 37 votes. And me and Victoria, we were talking about it a little earlier, and we were
Yeah.
like, what could have Pablo done differently? And we both came to the same conclusion that you probably should have taken some notes from the current elected officials, and you probably should have hired some Russians to help you.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Or the
Yeah,
Chinese, or the Chinese. Like recently, I don't know if you heard that Bolton, Donald Trump's Homeland Security advisor, wrote a
The
book.
former national security advisor. Yeah.
Yeah, in
Michael
his
Bolton.
book, saying that he saw President Trump try to get the president of China to support his reelection with some
Really?
quid pro quo type stuff. Yeah, breaking news.
I
Yeah.
I should have done that, man. Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
walk into it with just no dishonor and going full blast. Why not? Next time, I'll do it next time, man.
Next time.
Yeah. Well, not for president-elect, for whatever office I might run. I think the municipal judges are always kind of opening up, so I'll probably run for one of those and use some Russians to help me get elected to those.
So what are your future plans, Pablo?
Man,
Where are you going from here?
if I know, like today, I actually want to go see my dentist. It's like the first visit I've done on the side of the house here, since like April or so. And then they asked me, "Do you want to set up your appointment for December?" I don't even know what's going to happen in December, man. I have no idea.
It's crazy to be in that situation too. And I remember I was scheduling a Zoom hearing maybe like 2 months ago, and they're like, "Oh, Miss Moniz, you're going to be available in June," and I'm like, "I don't know. I think so. I'll probably still be stuck at my house." And now we're in June, and sure enough, here I am, still stuck at home.
I mean, brother, to be honest with you, it's been like since 08, 09 that I got on the State Bar Board of Directors. And then I did the 6 years at the Commission for Lawyer Discipline. I'm currently on the Texas Center for Legal Ethics Board, right? So I've done a lot of bar work already, and I'm doing a lot more on the local level with the Zooming hearings, setting up a lot of those CLEs that you probably can see and notice that I'm the one that's coming in to help with technical stuff and doing a lot of that training. And I'm glad to do that. But I'm going to go back to what I really like to do. And honestly, I always enjoy doing is just representing my clients. I'm going to learn bankruptcy law because that's coming up a lot in our client, having to deal with that. We're doing unemployment matters. Now Title VII is expanded. I did a jury trial years ago. I love that Title VII case. And I'm also doing guardianships, because the probate judge is just having a lot of them, in volume. So I'm learning probate, guardian, and bankruptcy and doing everything else that I like to do. And that's really what I want to do, go back to that. Like that, I know that I can deal with, and I mean, as the interview goes along, I can probably tell you why it is that I think I need to slow down on the bar work anyway, too.
What are Title VII cases? I'm asking for a friend.
Well, right. I mean, if you look at Facebook, everybody, constitutional lawyer, having an opinion about that. But there's a decision that came out recently, the 1964 Act, basically, for the most part, honestly, it's sort of like doing away with Jim Crow segregation, like slavery, laws that were out there and creating equality, and applying to the states to the 14th Amendment. That's highly technical for some of your audience, but basically it's just saying you can't discriminate. It used to be on race, then it expanded to gender. It expanded over to pregnancy, which is a case that I did a few years ago before Judge Gonzalez, I think it was, or I don't even know, Judge Partida, a jury trial that I did there. And recently, it's got expanded to the LGBTQ population in their employment matters. So you cannot be discriminated at work based on certain statuses, and now it's been expanded. It's an amazing law, 64, and it's, the argument between the Supreme Court and the 6-3 split was the three people that said were dissenting were like, this is not what it intended to do in 64. And the ones that are, the majority is like, it's not about what was at that point in time. It's like, what are the words? So what does it mean? And that's been expanded slowly but surely to other classes.
Yeah, I think when that opinion came out, everybody was really surprised who authored it, because that was not really expected that would come from Gorsuch, but we'll take it.
Yeah,
we'll take it for sure.
A 6-3. Yeah, it's strong. That's going to be interesting. You see, I mean, I know there's going to be a lot on the docket for the next few weeks that are going to be interesting on the powers of the presidency. So I wonder where those are going to go.
But the U.S. Supreme Court refused to take up an issue near and dear to me, which was qualified immunity. They basically said, no, not touching it.
Yeah, I think they're probably gonna wait for Congress to handle something like that. To say you all deal with it or something, because I don't know. It seems like they are gonna pick and choose obviously what they want to do. This was maybe a little bit easier for them to get into, but I'm also curious how it's gonna affect, because you know how they recently Trump issued an order basically saying that Obama's definition of discrimination based on sex when it comes to healthcare. Before it included, what was it?
Transgender.
Transgender, but now it's not going to include that. It's going to be based on biology, how somebody was born or what. So that was a step back, but I'm curious if they're going to take up a case like that or just say, you know what, this also applies, or how that's going to come about.
Well, the Texas session's coming up right soon, and now with this, there's I think 4 or 5 LGBTQ representatives who were elected in the past session that are still there, and they introduced some legislation in the past session. So now with this federal case, I wonder if they're going to expand it to the state level too. And I think it's going to happen around the nation. Now that it's settled in the federal law, I think it'll percolate down and maybe eventually to those federal mandates. That's my opinion. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm looking into that. Yeah, I'm finally practicing law, which is good.
And have you been having any hearings, or how's that? Anything?
There have been just small things, divorces, uncontested guardianships, nothing big. I mean, I've got a jury trial pending and it's going to be pushed till probably past August. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I don't see anybody doing any kind of bench trials anytime soon. And mind you, I've been campaigning for so long that I had to pick up my case so I didn't go here. I'm just, like I said, learning bankruptcy now, those federal codes, and doing some of the unemployment matters and gearing up with that. I mean, the unemployment stuff or the employment matters are a whole new world, with the new laws that were enacted and how they apply. So I'm slowly getting back in there.
Bankruptcy is pretty ambitious.
Pablo.
Well, no, it's not everything out there. It's like Chapter 7 only. That's what our clients really qualify for. It is ambitious, but the federal judge who's there is our biggest pro bono advocate, and he's a big supporter. So I think he's a friendly audience, if you will, and it should be interesting to be before him. What were you going to ask, Ef'n?
Well, with your campaigning for the bar president, you kind of went down in the books as one of the candidates that ran in one of the longest state bar races, right?
Oh yeah, look at my hair. I mean, look what happened to it, man. So
how long?
I was gonna say, are you doing your own hair?
Yeah, I am. I'm not going anywhere near sports clothes right now, man. I'll tell you. Which explains why my eyebrows are so thick, because I mean, I can't take care of that. That's for sure. The shorter the hair, the bigger these look. But no, I mean, I like it. I actually like this. Here's the thing. I used to do this before, like in my late 20s, and I was a licensed attorney, but I would go somewhere in a suit, like in a store or something, and they'd be like, who's this guy that kind of chased me around? Or even in the courthouse, they'd be like, are you the defendant or are you the attorney? But now everybody's wearing masks. Everybody looks like a criminal. So like, I look fine. Yeah. I fit in right now, but it's just so much better with this heat, and I take care of it, no problem.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the campaign. No, yeah, it's slowly had kind of been pushed back and some, because it used to be that like the month of March, I believe you were selected or interviewed. April, you were approved. No, February interviewed, more or less. March approved, and then like April you campaigned, and then you just stopped and waited for the month of May. I think I might even have that wrong. It might be the month of April. I can't even remember anymore and put it behind. It was the month of April. And so you only had 1 month you really campaigned, and it was crazy. You never, came home. You were always out. But the petition candidate, which is the person that gets a certain percentage of signatures, was being like slowly kind of changing the game plan. And these folks can start getting these signatures in September. So by doing that, they're basically in some instances campaigning in September, and the people chosen by the board had a bit of a, time to needed some time to catch up and campaign for that. So the board moved everything up to the month of September. And yeah, I think we're maybe the fourth or fifth, group of candidates who were selected back, interviewed in August, approved in September. So basically by October, you started campaigning. And then COVID hit, which means you couldn't mail out ballots because they were out of New York. So you had to do it all online. And the Supreme Court decided to expand and extend the voting from April till the end of May, which made it the longest election cycle, I think, in the history of the state bar.
That's crazy. Because I remember when you were on the show, you kept telling us like what the deadline was, and I kept signing on Facebook. Like I had already voted, and I was like, when are we gonna find this out? But
Yeah.
I'm also one of those. I'll be honest. I don't read all the emails that probably said, "Hey, it's going on later," or "It's been extended," or the deadline. But I'm like, I voted. I'm covered. We're good. I don't have to be worried about seeing Pablo out on the street or anything like that. So.
Yeah, no, listen, I got to say, I know maybe there might be more folks from our area in the District 12, which is Laredo, the Valley over from the State Bar District who voted this. I think we got like a record number of people. When we were at like about 40% of the people in the district, we're 2,200 attorneys, but we never got more than over like 600 and 700 and some. I think we got close to 900, 800, 900 people who voted from my district. So I'm proud. I mean, people came out. I'm assuming they voted for me. I don't know those stats yet, but even if they didn't, they took part in the voting. And I think that matters for future races because they do. I mean, candidates look and see, okay, how are the percentages going? Your East Texas district is heavy, your Panhandle is heavy, and now is in play now because we came out. I think we were second only to El Paso in percentage, but raw numbers, we were definitely had more than most places.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
And so, what was your experience campaigning? Like, what was your best experience, and what was your worst experience of running?
Well, the worst is the results. That's for sure. I mean, that's right there.
I'm like, I have a guess, but I don't know. Let's hear it from Pablo.
No, the best one I have to tell you was definitely. Well, no, let me start with the worst because I mean I want to end up having honestly, the worst ones were sometimes just how the politics were being interjected into the race and about the state bar. When you can't really do that as a director or president. I can't take a stand if I were to be elected president on a political matter. You just don't know because you're a compulsory bar. You got to respect your members' wishes. You can't. There's a Supreme Court decision about that. But the last day of voting, I got a call from somebody directly to my line and said, "I'm going to call you and I'm going to call your opponent. What's your stand on Roe v. Wade?" And I'm like, "What does that matter?" And he was kind of, where do you stand on that? I'm like, and I told him what I told you. Like, this is not a position that would require for me to take a position on that. I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't respect, my member. That was just weird to do that. But then there was also there was one guy out of North Texas, emailed me when you're at my bio in the beginning of voting and said, so I noticed that you were licensed in 97, 98, and you became a citizen in 2004. How is it that you were able to practice law? Ooh. Explain that to me. Like I had to explain myself to the guy. Well, read Plyler v. Doe, read the 14th Amendment. You'll realize there that I actually had the right to do that. I didn't engage that person, but those two are examples where I'm like, that was just kind of vicious.
Crazy.
I was like, and I didn't like that. But that's like 5%, 4% of my, 80, 90 visits, like 300, 400 calls I made. For the most part, people were, I think I told you when I mentioned, legal aid attorney, the only one to serve on the board and running for this, they're looking at the pamphlet, look back up and like, wait, what? And then engage. To this day, I mean, there's a giant, and this is a good part about it, there's a giant network of people out there that I would have not otherwise met or known that know about legal aid, that in the next few months or years, as we're dealing with pro bono need or even like funding sources, I can go to that network and they're really supportive. I mean, they still sending me emails and calls about how bad they feel as to what happened. And I tell them, hey, we're good. Now we got to fight the fight. So that's a very, very positive part too. I guess the negative part, I was a negative and then was positive. So we're good. Yeah, we're good right here.
And with your network, I mean, you've met so many people. Do you have any like other like future intentions for running for something like a district
Well,
judge, county court judge, governor of Texas?
I'm waiting for Joe Biden to call me now and see if I want to be vice president. No,
He
no,
may,
no.
if you were Paloma,
Yeah, Paloma.
it
Yeah.
may be something that he would consider because he has said consistently that he's going to have a woman running mate, but you would definitely make a great running mate too, I think.
That's funny because that is an issue in the president-elect race that I kind of actually did come into play, and I think played an interesting role here. But no, yeah, Frank, to your question, I have no idea, man. I mean, one of the reasons, when the campaigning ended, that we couldn't travel right around the place, around Texas, and I had to be home and homeschooling started. Most people kind of like, man, this is difficult, this is so hard, and it was hard to homeschool. I actually spent a lot of time with my daughters that I made up, for all the time that I've been gone, and that was kind of special. I actually, both of them learned to ride their bikes without any training wheels, even though my oldest daughter's 9, but she was embarrassed about it, but she picked it up like that.
Wow.
My younger one followed after that, so now we're like a bike crew, going all to kinds of parks, all 4 of us, and have new bikes, and that's what I wanted to remember, about all this matter. But I can't see myself, man, putting my family again through another like that anytime soon. Right now, with homeschooling, with things up in the air, my wife and I working out of the house, it's just too much. I think I want to focus on the house and the home and the kids, and then maybe later on. I mean, I've never, for everything I've ever done, I usually say no, and then I'm convinced to do it, and then I end up doing it. So my wife says,
So
you should say
right
no.
now you're saying no, but I have a feeling that we're going to be seeing your name on bumper stickers in the future.
Yeah,
Well,
we have to. I mean, you have spent nearly your whole career as a public servant, right?
the entirety of it, all 23 years. But it's a lot of us have though. Frank. Thank you for that. Thank you, honestly. I mean, I appreciate that, but I just like what I do, man. If the call comes and it happens, great. But I really like practicing law. I mean, I know that judges do that. I know that elected officials do that. But the client representation, the client call, I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think that's probably maybe the hardest transition. I don't know. I'm assuming like going from like lawyer to like judge. I would have a very hard time sitting on the bench because I'd be wanting to be like yelling my own objections or like, man, they should have done it this way, or no, you're doing it wrong.
It is tough. Both Judge Haynen from federal court and Judge Ramirez, in state court, senior judge, they both actually different times have kind of said, in conversations that the social isolation also is very heavy. I mean, apart from what we do right now, but as a judge, you can't do certain things. You can't be with certain people. You can't. That is difficult. Also, after being engaged and being in a group, you have to be so careful, be tough.
Well, you see who I hang out with, Pablo, at the office. So I
So
probably.
you want social isolation. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I've had social isolation before quarantine. I always assumed that I was not a people person, that I dreaded crowds and I hated talking to people and I hated small talk. And now I'm like, man, if I could just talk to a stranger and ask them about their day today, that would be great.
It's funny. I'm cool with this, man. I'm thriving. I'm doing okay. My wife is not. She wants to go out and do some stuff, and we try to do that. I mean, I don't like my girls being around the house, but I don't mind it. It's interesting. Well, maybe in a couple of months when you call me back, who knows I'm going to look, at that point. It might be like a Beyond Thunderdome, or what is it, Max look going on.
Yeah.
Who knows?
That's what I was expecting to see.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think a lot of people were 37, the big number 37 on my phone, which is the number that I lost by the way. That's anybody's wondering.
37 votes. Oh.
Out of 19,000 votes. Yeah.
But
yeah. So when people talk about their vote not counting, 37.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
There's 37 people that I met in one floor of a downtown building in Houston, or Dallas, that could change the election. There's 40 people here. There's 20 people that I reached out to here or somewhere locally that could have changed their vote. That would have changed the election. It's that close. Yeah.
But I hope it's not lost on you, Pablo, what you did for this area, just by running and coming close. You gave like every lawyer like down here hope, because
Yeah.
we attend CLEs in San Antonio, like Austin, and people are like, Hidalgo County, where's that at? Oh, that's that small county in South Texas. Do you guys even have roads there? Like, what are you talking about? But what you did running and coming that close, I think gave all the lawyers, the judiciary, the elected officials, like hope, made us feel good. So even
Thank you.
though you lost, I think in most people's eyes, you made us shine like down here, and that's awesome. That's
No,
awesome.
thank you. Thank you. That was always present in my mind. I really appreciate that. And I mean, when I started in the Commission for Lawyer Discipline in the 6 years, I remember the first cases we were dealing with were Cameron County prosecutions and how the DA's office is being prosecuted. We were like taking licenses away from people in Cameron County. 6 years later, we end up with Hidalgo County judge also being, thrown in jail and taking his license. And, in a room of 12 people, 6 attorneys, 6 clients and prosecutors and stuff, I had to kind of, show them the valley's not all that. It's like
Yeah.
2-3% of us, maybe that of our population that do that, but that get so much publicity over that. You don't get other kind of public publicity, for the stuff we do. For those of us that do something different, and I knew I was very keenly aware that I represented Hidalgo County, the Valley, Latinos, legal aid attorneys, even Mexican-born foreigners. I mean, I was aware of that, so I made sure that and I was asked many times, "Why don't you go negative? Why don't you do this?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to do that," which is one of the issues that you just kind of talked about right now that I think I have to address, because as part of the campaign it was difficult to deal with, was that there are many reasons that I probably could have done a better campaign. I probably should have reached out to certain people better. The COVID issue, I think my campaign person helped me. But the one thing that people don't know that when I walked in, was interviewed in August, I was told very clearly that you might be interviewed but not selected because there is a building of a frustration that's happened in the past few years that the female candidates have not won or given a fair share, and they might select 2 females at this time, to run. The word was after the interview, that my interview was probably the better ones of the group, one of the better ones in a while, and so the dynamic changed a bit. But I was keenly aware of the fact that for the past few years, it's been a little bit of a great sentiment, that female candidates have not been given a fair share. And there hasn't been a female attorney who's been president of the state bar since, a good friend of mine who actually I was in the committee that selected her to run when I was on the board. And I think my opponent did a good job of pointing that out and campaigning on that. And I could have maybe done a better job of reaching out, and saying that, okay, I am not female, I am not Paloma, but many of my colleagues, many of my mentors and mentees, and many of my friends, are women, and I can reach across the aisle and represent just as well. Can you all hear me? Because I think my connection's unstable now, so I'm saying that's what I mean.
I can hear you fine.
No, we can hear you.
Okay. You see, my internet connection is kind of disagreeing with me. You see, and that's a problem. Had I got into that discussion, even right now, I feel so uncomfortable because I myself do it. If I go down, a row of candidates and it comes down to something going on, like, you see, Latino, minority, a woman. I mean, I look at that, right? And then I go on that because I don't know about the candidates.
Yeah.
And so I should have maybe done a better job of people to kind of know my story, to maybe stand out, and I just didn't do that enough. But it was very hard to get into the discussion about gender without mansplaining to somebody, that issue. And that's not what I wanted to do.
It's a very thin line, and it's hard to know like when you're going to cross it or not. Because I can see, I mean, the same thing happened, when it was up, for Hillary, like, people wanting to vote for Hillary because she was a woman. And I'm like, I can get past her gender. She has certain qualifications,
Right.
You can look at the qualifications, and I can, as a woman, I can see how, we should be given these opportunities, and we shouldn't be, told like, well, you can't really, do as well of a job as a man can. But it's hard to make the argument about getting these opportunities without saying, well, they should get it just because they're a woman. And it's like, no, that's not what we're saying. It's just, it's hard. It's difficult. Like, I'll admit too, like, it's, cause I can see, and I was going to ask the question earlier, but I was like, I don't know, is if you felt that certain people voted for her just because she was a female, which, can't really say right or wrong, or, because that's how they felt, because as a young, youngish Latina attorney, you see all of these attorneys like on the Texas lawyers website, and it's predominantly white men. That's what you see a lot. And then you have the Hispanic, lawyers, Facebook page. There's a lot of men on there too. We're outnumbered in a lot of situations, whether it's just being Latino or if it's just being female in this profession. So I can see how females can see her and maybe thought, well, you know what, it's our time. And unfortunately, I don't agree with that necessarily, but I can see how somebody has that type of a reasoning.
In any kind of election, you're going to have people in sort of three different camps. The ones that are going to be with you, die hard no matter what. The ones that are, not going to even want to talk to you on the other end. And then the middle giant bubble that you want to go after. That middle bubble is that I pursued, right? Same thing with my opponent, Sylvia. She had those strong, hardcore, supporters. At least on one or two occasions, I was told, very bluntly by people who were served with her on the board or leaders and supported her, women, they're like, hey, there hasn't been a female candidate for a while. And when I asked for their support or their guidance, they were not rude about it, they were not mean about it, they were making their point. That's one group, right? And then there's another group that maybe didn't believe that way. That middle group is the one that I'm talking about, that I could have maybe done a better job of reaching out to and saying to them that, I can represent anybody, no matter what. Because one thing I want to make clear, like, I never put it out front there. If you were to look at my qualifications and not my background, you would have never known that I was on the border or a Latino legal aid attorney. I mean, ethics background, leadership roles, maybe some pipeline projects that I kind of helped out with. When you added the other aspect, okay, and I'm also Latino from the border legal aid attorney, right? That's a whole other aspect that I think brings the diversity to. And Sylvia probably had the same thing too. Like, there are certain qualifications and then there's her background.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to make a certain, and I think it's 37 vote difference. It did bring almost the same amount of people to my campus as it did to her, but I do think that's a big why maybe she had a bit more. I think there were some people also in my group that are hardcore supporters that might have said, oh, you're okay, you're fine, on this end, that I wish they would have made a few more calls. And I don't think they did because they thought somebody else was doing it, but I'm not going to fault anybody for that. And then there's also just a large group, honestly, that I cannot blame them. They were just inundated with life. I was calling people 2 days before, the election ended at the end of May, and they're like, I just got back into my office. Hold on, I'll get to that. I'll vote. Feeling bad about being overwhelmed. And I feel bad, when that was happening. So there's that too. So I'm not making excuses. I think that Sylvia ran an effective campaign. She was smart. And I think, I know that there was that frustration that was felt, by previous candidates who had run and by our female attorneys. And that's fine. That's okay. I'm sad to be in the losing end of that, but at the same time, it's something historic that I think opens doors. And at the same time, like I told you all really here, I think I even said it in the previous interview, I didn't want to close any doors behind me. I didn't do any negative campaigning. I didn't upset, I think, anybody. I didn't want to just alienate anybody. Although at the end, there was a discussion about a runoff matter that I think upset some people. But beyond that, I think I hope there's nobody that can say, there's somebody from legal aid, they shouldn't probably be qualified, because remember the last guy? I hope I didn't do that.
No, I don't think you did. And I think honestly, for me, like what I saw is usually you kind of know who's involved in like the state bar stuff. Like you see people here, especially like in Hidalgo County, they post it on, social media, different media platforms, and you kind of know who's involved. I was never really particularly involved. I'll be honest, I didn't vote in prior state bar election because I always was of the mindset, why? What difference does it make? But then when you came in and you talked to us and you explained like some of the issues that are actually important, and I'm like, these issues are important to us, but we never had anybody, I think, one, come in, take the time to explain all of that, but also put it into a way that makes you feel like it is important to us. There is a difference. There are different things that, could be better for us as attorneys, that we just don't really think about or we don't have exposure to. So I think you did, make a big difference, I think, with like certain people that I saw posting about you online or posting about, casting their ballot. I can tell you right now, years before, I've been a lawyer for almost 10 years. I did not see that many people posting on Facebook about casting their ballot for, a state bar elect. So I think that is like a huge win just in and of itself.
Well, thank you. No, thank you, folks.
Yeah, you got me to vote. I never voted in any state bar election except this one.
No, I hope it continues. I really do, because I think we definitely are a group. I mean, actually, recently, if you look over the Texas Lawyer Facebook group, we're at the middle of June here. Richard Flores, one of our attorneys locally, pointed to the fact that there's an advisory committee on the discussion of reopening the courts. I think some of you may have seen that post.
Yeah, I saw it.
And how there was no one south of San Antonio except for Judge Maderi. I was corrected about that. Who was appointed on that advisory committee on reopening the courts. And my point was that on the practitioner side, there's nobody south of San Antonio there. When you consider the cross-border traffic we're gonna have, how those folks might come to the courthouse and attend, and some matters might happen, you would think they would want at least one of us there. And one of the benefits of, being sort of unbridled, if you will, and not having to be a candidate anymore is that I commented on that post and I said, this is something that's upsetting because, it comes down to a health issue to us and we're not involved.
Yeah.
And I think at least this race and this platform, and hopefully the way that I've kind of conducted myself throughout, as giving us a platform to be able to have credibility behind the statement. That we're not just complaining, but like, what, he put his time in, he can probably give his opinion, and so can his members.
Yeah, I was surprised because when I saw that posted, I think it came in an email where it was showing the advisory committee. I don't remember where I read it, but I was looking, is there somebody from Hidalgo County, a judge, an attorney, somebody on something, and there was nothing. And I'm like, I don't think we're the most important in the state or the biggest, but I think it's important to have some type of that representation down here, like you said, given, some of our situation with everything. But yeah, no, definitely. I think we did need that representation.
Those connections and those issues that I think we might have kind of ignored, I hope that people know I've been more involved, and want to hear about it. And I want to give like a way to be able to express those frustrations in an effective way. I'm not somebody that's going to get online and just shout out, blame the bar, and move on. Okay, you did this, but let's do this, give some solutions. There's nothing, a criticism is really not worth much unless you offer a solution. And I think I can provide both. And I hope that happens. Who knows if the bar's going to come calling after what I did after the elections, what they think I did or not.
They're like, Pablo, who?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Yeah.
New number. Who this?
Yeah.
So, on a side note, Pablo, what type of camera do you have hooked up?
Oh, you like this?
Yeah, you might want to downgrade though, because I think you got like one of those 4K cameras.
Why is that? Does it look bad or what?
It's real pristine, man.
It looks really crisp, really good. The only downside is I could see on your bookcase, one of the books says Karma Sutra on it.
No way. Where is that at?
He's lying.
Damn, man. I was like, I'm quite sure I don't.
I'm pretty sure it's in the bedroom.
And now you see why Ef'n does, a bed sheet behind his, so we can't see everything that's going on in his room.
That's funny.
Victoria, what I find like really disturbing about you right now, Victoria, is you're talking about women's power, like women's prejudice, and where are you doing your Zoom casting from?
In my kitchen. Because I choose, and it's my kitchen. It's my house. I pay the mortgage.
All right.
Hey, we got that blender you got back there. That's an awesome blender, man.
My stand-up mixer?
That's an awesome mixer.
It's awesome. It's super good.
That's an awesome one.
Yes.
Yeah, this corner actually was kind of set up by this is a big, the one everybody wants to interview. I'm on Housing Matters. She's done like 5 or 4 interviews out of here. So I'm sure it's okay. There's nothing here wrong.
No, it looks good.
What it's known.
You have some fancy looking books there. Okay, I'll explain why I'm in the kitchen. One, I have my kitchen table here set up like with my calendar, my files and everything. But early in the morning when I do Zoom hearings, I open up the curtains for the window and the lighting is it makes the skin look amazing. So that's why it's here, Ef'n, if you must know.
For those who
right now it's too hot.
the CLE that I did like in May for the bar association, I kind of pointed out my equipment, and what I have here in front of me is one of those like brown picture lights, for photos.
You have one of the ring lights?
I have one of the ring lights because I mean I like to
Fancy.
do photos, but I also knew that that was actually going to be something required for zooming. And then when I was campaigning, I was using it a lot, and I'm every Zoom CLE you're going to see from the bar association for the next few months is going to be me involved some way or the other. And so, not you don't only see my face, but there's that, and then there's like this nice microphone that I got on Best Buy. Look at this.
Oh,
Oh.
that's very fancy.
So yeah, no, I got into this and just to do it right. And honestly, the way things are going, we're going to be zooming for quite a while. I wanted to make sure that I end up like a defendant again, and like the
Yeah.
attorney.
Yeah.
So are you thinking about still doing like maybe like a podcast? Because I know the first time that we interviewed you, you were talking about being interested in that.
I continued doing those, and I did a few, and I think folks liked it. I'm a little busy right now with work, but and I'll talk to my work folks, my media people, and see if they want to do something like this because they're doing something similar on the communications, and they're really active and doing great stuff on social media. But I think I want to kind of focus on work right now before that happens. I wouldn't mind doing this, but this is mostly for Zoom matters right now. But I mean, the way the local bars, the association is going, I think I'm going to be doing a lot of these things for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
So Pablo, did you have an opportunity to have like people submit questions to you?
I asked for questions, but people just kind of made comments, and said, like, we feel this way. I think they were afraid to ask the questions or say something, they kind of said what you all said. There was a lot of commentary as to what happened after the results came in. And I do want to kind of address that because I wanted to clarify that I think if any supporter sees this, what happened, I don't know if you all know about it, but, late Friday night, when the results came in, all I was told when the call came in was, that I lost by like, the closest margin ever, I think 37 votes. And, that's all I heard. And this is a hard, let me tell you one thing. I'm okay emotionally wise, right? But the hardest thing was to look back and see my wife waiting to kind of hear the notice, and behind her, my kids kind of waiting. And I'm kind of like, thumbs down. The look on their face kind of hurt. That one hurt. And because they were just like taken aback, and I felt like I let them down. And so that kind of leaves a bit of a scar. And once in a while, when I talk to people and I hear like in their voices, sometimes like, I'm so sad. Like it lifts the scat back again for a little while. And so I actually recently talked to my wife, and I feel just bad that my family down. And she said, no, we weren't worried about that. Because you work so hard and so happy. So it was good to hear that, but that was the difficult part, when it happened. So at that point, that's my shock, right? It happens that you don't think it's going to happen. I called Sylvia that night, congratulated her, and then, moved on. And then I started getting texts, and then I got a couple of messages about like, have you thought about a runoff? I'm like, what are you talking about? Folks don't know that the night before the election ended, the Thursday night, for 12 hours, the server went down on the election site. So nobody could vote for 12 hours. At least 4 people had to vote, put in our name in the writing candidate, couldn't click our name. And I got an email at 7:30 about that, that they couldn't click my name, 7:30 at night. By 8:30, it was down. And until like 8:30 the next morning, the site come back up. We were assured that there were no votes lost at that point. And I don't know who though who wanted to vote, couldn't vote. And both are on, camps here. And then the results come in, and then, so that's one issue. And I'm like, that happened and it's close. And then I kind of wake up from the stupor of it all on Saturday morning, like what happened. And I look at the text and what are they talking about? And I see the results. And if you ever look at an election, a primary anywhere, when there's candidates and you see 49, like where's the 50? Where's the 50%, which majority, means? Oh, then I made the connection. Both of us got 49% because 1.58% voted as a write-in candidate. So it was, she had 49.3%, I had 49.1% of the vote. You looked in the manual, the policy manual for elections that somebody had sent me, several points of people at that point, and they said, look, it says a runoff shall happen if a majority of the votes are not obtained by the majority of the votes cast in that election. Clear as day. I'm like, okay, what do I do with this? Like, hey, folks at the bar, can you tell me what's up? Silence for about till Sunday morning, and then I do get a call. And I'm like, well, this is not, there were historical perspectives about an 08 race where it's very close, and there was no runoff then. I'm like, this was 2013 when there were more than, a couple of candidates. It's like, well, it's for more than 2 candidates when they run. It's like, well, that's not how it reads, And what I wanted is just like, let me know why, let me know how it was the committee or anybody looked at that on Friday before calling me, before doing the results. What was it that you saw there that didn't jive with the language? Unfortunately, I wouldn't get a response from the bar or the committee unless I submitted something in writing. So I gave my interpretation in writing. The next day, I think it was submitted to the subcommittee to look it over. And by that point, though, Texas lawyer and other folks picked it up as Pablo challenging the election and asking for a runoff. And I'm like, no, it was a policy interpretation that was there. I needed to know that somebody looked at it on Friday night or Saturday morning, anytime around. Then that night, of course, the subcommittee on Monday, I believe, or Tuesday, I think at 1:30 came back with, I had asked for a recount to ensure, and then I asked for the policy interpretation of a runoff. They said to me, we'll give you your recount, but we're only going to count the votes given to you and your opponent, and we're going to discount the write-in vote, which means they would ensure a 50%, result. And we're not gonna order a runoff regardless.
So they basically disenfranchised everyone that did a
write-in vote, who actually took the time to figure out how to spell Almaguer, because we know Efrain can barely pronounce it. So
well, I was trying to do him some favors. Almaguer, Almaguer. No.
Yeah, it was you, man. There's 37 people out there that could spell it right, but they're like, how much? No, forget it. You go to the next one.
Yeah, the French guy. For the French guy.
And so, I want to make that point clear to my, supporters and even the opponents. And they're supposed to this day on Texas Lawyer website. I had an army of appellate attorneys ready to appeal this matter and like whatever. I'm like, no, it stops here. It ends here. I don't want any more of this stuff. It's just not right.
Yeah.
The committee made a decision. Before the decision came down, I said, I'm going to respect the decision. It'll end there. Sylvia, whoever takes over is going to have a very difficult year. But I was surprised at the comments that came up immediately. The way not only how it was posted, what I requested, and how the second article that clarified matters wasn't even posted in certain places. How everybody just wanted to go get it, and just kind of heavy criticism that just kind of made me sour to a lot of things. And I want to, again, bring it from my perspective, folks. I know I'm talking a bit too much here, but I need you all to know my mindset that, in 08, 09, when I was chair of the board, a little later after that, chair of the board, I basically had to put forth the referendum rule changes. And they were pretty unpopular. They were hard and difficult, but the Supreme Court wanted those put forth. A lot of capital in line, by many of us kind of put forth just to have a vote done. And throughout it all, I did the right thing. I took a lot of heat from my own colleagues, co-workers, and friends and stuff, but the Supreme Court wanted a vote. They got a vote. You got back, resounding no on the rule changes, and the Supreme Court no one could complain on the process. Nothing was challenged ever as to how that was then put forth. And that had to do with, our board and the chair of the board. So when I was in the Commission for Lawyer Discipline 6 years later, and the legislative process did sunset review, and they talked about disciplinary process, they bring me in, and give some input, and there was a lot of criticism towards lawyers that you had to defend, and also the public, but I did the right thing, even though people were saying, this and the other. So when I came into this issue of asking for the interpretation, I came in with a goodwill telling them, look, I'm not going to challenge this beyond this. I'm not going to fight it in court. I've done the right thing throughout when you all have asked me to do that, even though it's difficult to do. And I was a little disappointed that I feel that wasn't what was done.
No.
Wow. Okay.
Pablo, you're the candidate that we don't deserve. That's the bottom line. That's what I get from all of that. Because I know so many other people who they wouldn't have taken, that route. They would have been like, it's not fair, and but I guess you saw it as like doing it for the greater good, or for, this is just the way it's going to be, and that's it. But yeah, I stand by it. You're the candidate that we didn't deserve.
Oh, well, you still got a great candidate and a great person in Sylvia. I mean, the first person from El Paso, the first Latina, that's a big deal. I mean,
no, it is. It is a big deal.
Again, I'm just sad I'm on the losing end of that. What you do for that? I was like, well. But yeah, I'm sorry to vent. I just needed to say that because I think a lot of supporters needed to hear why, because I'm getting a lot of calls.
No, I can imagine. Yeah, because I know what post you're talking about because I saw it. And I wasn't necessarily surprised, but I was like, what could possibly have been the issue. And then now when you're talking about that there was a time frame that people couldn't vote, like that's a big deal. That's something that unfortunately, like in this day and age, when we're doing electronic voting, it's something that people should at least know. There was some reasoning behind it. You weren't just throwing a fit. And anybody who knows you, who spent more than a couple of minutes talking to you would know if this is something that Pablo's saying, it's something that is important and it's not without reason, or at least that's how I took it. So yeah, unfortunate.
Thank you. And I knew I was going to get some blowback from what I did, and the way it was done. I think I shouldn't have had to request something in writing. I think something should have been done just by pointing it out and giving me a response. But again, I think the goodwill that I had built up, for the bar would have not put me in that position. And so it's difficult to kind of come out of that and say, well, why put in all that goodwill and good time when that happened? At the same time, this is just one thing, the bar in itself is such a great thing, and there's so many services that can be provided that I still kind of want to work on that and want to develop those things for our members and beyond. And the conversation can shift here too. I'm really happy now that I can move forward in the network that I built to build support, for things that I believe in and for our legal aid clients, our pro bono clients. As an example, we did a bankruptcy in a box project about 3 years ago. We got some money from the 3 legal aids, and one of my ideas was to build like a 3-hour COE to teach people how to do bankruptcy on pro bono, that if you get it for free, then you would sign up to do 2 pro bono cases. That one, it took off, it was really popular, and then recently kind of was revived because of what's going on with COVID matters. In a span of about 2 weeks, and it happened during the election, so that the state bar couldn't put my name to it. But in the span of 2 weeks, we got 300 people from around the state that signed up for that and took pro bono cases because of that project. So that, before I was even kind of, had my network, I'm looking forward to do along with other projects and moving forward. So the positive thing again is that network is created. I hope to move it forward, and I hope people that see this don't stick, if I can move beyond that, which I had, then you can
if you
too.
Move on from it, other people can too.
Yeah, and then do some positive.
That's right. Well, Pablo, it looks like we're almost out of time. Once again, we hope you come back, like on the show. You are an inspiration for so many young lawyers here in Hidalgo County, as well as all the old lawyers.
I was going to say, and the not so young lawyers.
The old ones know. I mean,
look at that gray hair.
When you walk into the courthouse, everyone knows who you are and the type of cases you represent, and more importantly, the people and causes that you represent. So,
or you hear the voice. You hear the voice, and I know that voice.
Yeah.
It's Almaguer.
It's Almaguer.
It's Almaguer.
Thank you, folks. Honestly, really, you all were amazing, and you all know that I really advertised out there what you all did with the interview, not because it helped the campaign, but because it was so different and so novel, and it was in the Valley. I'm really proud of that. So thank you again for giving me this forum, and I hope to come back with better news with a vaccine and some other pro bono stuff for you all next time we talk.
Or how to cut your own hair. I mean, I've been trying to trim my own bangs. We could do a whole special, Pablo, to just the two of us cutting people's hair.
Oh, you haven't seen the back, man. It's kind of like, kind of like the zooming when you wear the right things on top and shorts on the bottom. It's probably like a mullet mess back there. You don't want to see
Efrain's probably not wearing pants. So, we got that.
You know me so well, Victoria.
Anyway, thank you guys, honestly. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Pablo.
Thank you, Pablo, so much for coming on.
Bye-bye.